lot of Canva in my job. I use a ton of it, mostly because I do all of the flyer design, or at least a very high majority of the flyer design for our site. And so Canva is a resource which is fantastic. I'm sure you've been curious. I'm sure you've seen flyers, maybe even had a session or two. I know Katie previously, my co-host here for tech support, ran a session about it. And really, my goal here is going to be kind of demystify it a little bit to kind of let you know some of the basics and very brief discussions on like how do you do various things. So if I could get a show of hands in chat, like on like the, just say I've done it before, or if you know how to raise your hand, go ahead and do it just to say, yep, I've used it before. And if not, then that's okay. Great. I'm happy to see some people have experience. I am going to get through, kind of keep on going. Feel free to chat, say, hey, yep, I've used it before. It's great to see some people have had some experience with it. So let's talk about some use cases. It is an amazingly powerful tool for designing and marketing. And you can even use it for classroom work. I do have a little caveat about that, which is that sometimes it's not great for PowerPoints. I actually uploaded this PowerPoint to Canva just to play around with it. The animations are a little bit less than PowerPoint and Google Slides, I think. It works a little bit worse, but it is very, very, still makes very beautiful presentations. So if you don't care as much about animations, then it might be a great tool for you there. It has a very wide breadth of different fast, intuitive templates and brand kits. And also it makes it extremely easy for collaboration as long as you're, whoever you're collaborating with is comfortable. Another thing I do want to note is that there is a pro version and a free version. A lot of schools and nonprofits do actually have access to a paid version of this without any need for getting additional funds or anything. So it is good to check to see, does your site have access to the pro version? Otherwise, mostly you'll be restricted a little bit on what resources you can use, as well as some of the resources that they give you access to will have like a little Canva, like a watermark on it if you don't have the paid version. So I did want to give a couple of examples of work that I've done in the past, different resources. So they have templates directly for social media. I threw this one together to advertise one of our classes, posted it on Facebook. And then you can make some beautiful flyers, of course, which I'm sure that's a big push on why a lot of you are here and a lot of why you're wanting to learn about this. This particular one was just for our childcare, but we have lots of different resources for that. And then this is one thing that I drummed up extremely fast in Canva because of how easy it is to use it. We just needed to communicate a difference in what our hours were in the month of August. So it took me probably, I would say, less than 20 minutes to put this together with copying and pasting and using templating that was already present. So it can be so powerful. But let's talk about Backstage briefly. There is, there is so much on the screen that you might kind of get lost in. Basically, with Canva, there's like, we're going to keep it really simple for today, but you can do things like use it for whiteboard. There's a document tool for kind of working with your students. You can even collaborate with your students. It has direct connection to Google Classroom if you use that. So it's really, really, really nice for that aspect. The presentations are slick. Again, they don't really have access to animations, but one thing that is nice is that they have like templating for polls and for quick questions. Like you can literally put the question in the presentation. So there's lots of little things that you can play around with, and I do recommend that you do kind of on your own time here. Generally speaking, this is the interface that you're met with once you log in to Canva. On the left-hand side, you have kind of your navigation area. Most of what you're going to be working with is going to be projects, create, and templates. Brand, I've played around a little bit with brand, but there's so many different things in Canva that honestly, we could probably do weeks and weeks and weeks and never actually hit on every single point that there is. So you got to kind of pick and choose what matters most to you. What are you looking for? You can choose different sizes. Sometimes there's flyers, like you have many different things for like the social media. You need much different sizes for whatever you're producing in social media. And I'm just going to show just a couple of tools for where you get into the templates from here. You can actually, I would recommend most of the time whenever you're creating actual flyers using the portrait templating. There is the option sometimes to resize your flyers if you put something in the wrong size, but most of the time portrait is going to be your best friend. Landscape occasionally will also kind of come into play, and social media depending on what your site needs. So I also wanted to include just a brief discussion of tips about design. My first advice to you, please keep it simple. If you have paragraphs and paragraphs of text, I mean, a lot of us, we're English language learning, affiliated in some way, shape, or form. Our clients, our students have at some point needed, getting English skills. And so having too much text can really, really bog down your process. Points, you should always keep bullet points brief. This is the one time where you get to not type incomplete sentences, no periods needed. Just focus on the main points that matter to you. Having too many pictures, too many graphics on the flyers or anything can be distracting. So try to keep it organized in a way that will also make your information clear and easy to spot. I remember at one time seeing a flyer for something where I couldn't tell. I had to really, really hunt to figure out and finally find just the tiniest little word that said free for what the content was, because I was trying to figure out, do I recommend this to my students or do I not recommend this to my students? So the most important information like class times, pricing, and like what days of the week, when does it start? Make that super clear. Do not go too crazy with the formatting or the reorganizing. There's a time and place for creativity, and that's not it. Some more design tips. I would highly encourage avoiding using the same design for every single flyer. If people think that they've already read something, they've already seen it, they're probably not going to read it. So really important there. Also consider your audience. If you have a lot of non-English speakers, you should try to go out of your way to make sure you use sans serif fonts. And to illustrate my point here, I do have the first part of the sentence is in a sans serif, and then the second part is actually in serif. The feet attached to, the letters can sometimes make it hard for people to understand what it's actually saying. I mean, it's adding another barrier that you don't need. You should always also consider adding additional languages if applicable. So I know one of our instructors here at Mounds View Adult Ed put a ton of work into collecting different ways to say the same exact information about basically, hey, come learn English here at school at Mounds View Adult Ed. We have free classes in a ton of different languages. And I actually adapted that. I believe I have that one in my presentation here as well. I do advise, however, keep some sort of visual cohesion between your flyers using common fonts and colors to link them together. And just as a rapid example of that, here are the three flyers, three primary flyers that we have at the site. You know, we teach high school diploma, GED, English language learning classes, and then we have like a cumulative flyer that's a collection of everything that we do here. And you can see I went with a theme. This year it's orange. Every year I update this slightly visually and I change the color scheme. But I don't do redesigns every single year. If there's something that I feel like is feeling really outdated or I don't like it anymore, I've redesigned. I do believe, for example, I did a redesign, I think like it was about 2 years ago on the high school diploma classes because it needed a complete overhaul. And then the English language learning classes, that again, the templating of adding the multiple different languages, the popular languages around our area, that was also established, and I put it right on this flyer right away. So now let's get into when you're actually logged into Canva, because we've talked a lot about theory and a lot about Backstage, but we need to get into the actual meat and potatoes of how all of this works. So when you go to create a flyer, this is the screen that you're met with. Of course, your document is going to be more or less in the center here. And then the rest of this is all tools and tricks that can help you with your document. On the left-hand side, you'll see kind of a navigation menu. Clicking on any one of those different parts is going to help you like navigate through. And we're going to highlight a couple of the most important sections there. Whenever you click on one of those areas, you get the particular pane. In this case, I'm looking at the design pane. And I know that because design does tend to be a little bit like shadowed and lit up when I have clicked on it. As you can see, it's blue there. And also, this does deal with design, which is all about templates and keeping things organized. Canva does like to, just like Google, give you little tutorials. Please feel free to look at those, try those out. Sometimes they can really help you, give you little tidbits that you don't necessarily realize immediately. In red here, this is the document. This is where you actually what you're actually working off of. And then in the upper right-hand corner, this is where we go to share and download the file. We will dig a little bit more into that, but it works very similar for those of you who have used Google at some point. It works extremely similar to that, where you can share, you can designate whether or not somebody is an editor, a viewer, or a commenter. So all of that works. Now, the most important sections in the navigation include the design, which, as we established last slide, is an area where you can look up templates. You can look and see what other people have done and submitted to Canva and put in your own information. You always want to do a little bit with them. Don't keep them too similar to the original one. You can change font styles and like how the text is organized, add shapes, add pictures, and that can really make your design pop. There are many other sections, but the other ones that I kind of want to focus on for us and highlight, elements contains our graphics, videos, shapes, stickers, GIFs, music, charts, spreadsheets, and more. They have so many different things available to you. This is also where you go for those of you who are curious about using AI. You can actually, if you scroll through this area, this is where you'll find the AI image generator. And to me, I think I like Canva the way that they do AI better than some of the other resources, mostly because the AI sources in Canva, they're going to all be licensed through Canva. So they can't pull like the minions or something like that. But they can, if somebody submitted a Tyrannosaurus Rex, they can have that image appear. for example. And then you have the text area, which is where you go to add any words to the document. Sometimes they have some templating, or you can make it completely original to you. And what's nice about that area is you can even look up if you're looking for like a handwriting type style, so that it like a written invitation to like a wedding or something, kind of taking it out of the school context. You can also use block letters, bubble letters. You can even type in that sans serif that I mentioned, and it'll show you a selection of sans serif fonts. So I do want to go ahead and encourage you guys to look a little bit at Canva's backstage and looking for specifically a GED flyer. And I'm going to oh yeah, absolutely, Amy. I see your question there. Yes, they can actually. You can even search for QR codes, and especially if you have access to the paid version, you can. And I'll even show that just briefly here. So 1 second. So I'm just going to show. So when you're on Canva before you're logged in, this is the screen that you're getting. I'm just going to log in with Google here just to make it fast. Pretty slick. Come on. Now I am going to be on my just on like a different account. I'm not going to be on my school account for this moment, just because I want to show how it works a little bit more without any kind of clutter here. So no kind of like missing out on anything. So you would hit the create button, and then you're going to go ahead and where is it? Flyer portrait, 8.5 by 11. That's usually the standard size of most flyers and most pieces of paper in general when you're not like going and ordering something special. So you can search for GED. I'm going to search for GED flyer. And sometimes you can come up with, oh, it came up with gym flyer for some reason. Sometimes you'll come up with things that are not exactly perfect to what you're looking for. And that's okay. You can certainly add additional like prompts and kind of mess around with it, play around with the different features. As you see here, there's lots of different options. If you had like, for example, a schedule, this one actually looks kind of good for certain things. And you can kind of play around with the tool. In this case, this particular one is a free version of the flyer. I can tell if the flyer is free or paid by whether or not there is the crown on here. And I'll show you guys just really quickly that QR code that I mentioned as well. If you search for QR code here, and I see Carly also added something else in the chat here about QR codes. Where the heck? There it is. Okay. It is just at the very top. Of course it is. So you can do a website. I'm just going to grab this link here just for funsies. And you can even customize it, changing like the color of the actual, I don't even know what to call the gobbledygook that is a QR code. But you can see right here, it changed it to that specific blue color. And you can even add like little things like scan here and things like that to your graphic. So that was a great question. Thank you. But I do encourage you to play around with this. Sometimes your material is actually going to cost you 1 credit, in which case you'll like it will be a paid resource there. A lot of different assets, they'll ask you to pay once you actually reach the end of it. Sometimes, again, they'll just have that watermark, and you're looking specifically for this yellow crown on any resources. This includes flyers, elements, even text sometimes has paid versus free resources. So, again, I highly recommend as you're working through this to change up elements of your flyer. Do not have it look too similar to other flyers. This includes you're in competition kind of with everyone else's content. So that includes my content. You don't want your stuff to look exactly like my content because then somebody will look at it and think that they've already seen that, they can ignore it. And that's one of the main things that I kind of try to strive with my design is I don't want it to look too similar to where people will just disregard it, which is one of the reasons why I change up the color every single year. You can try clicking on various elements in your document. As you click on various elements in your document, you're going to notice that the toolbar changes. So pulling back up Canva for a second, notice I currently have that QR code selected right now. There's a toolbar that has a couple of different options on it, very few options for the QR code. Then if I click on schedule, I get a completely different toolbar, one that's more geared towards doing things with my text, changing it to italics, bold or not bold, underlining it, putting a strike through it. I can even quickly control the capitalization, whether or not we're in all caps or all lowercase, the centering, the bullet points. Canva is so slick that it even has the option to make more or less space between your lettering. It's wild how many choices they give you for text and for other resources for that matter. And you can see that with this, you can even with the shapes here, I can change the color of them. I can change the thickness. And really, there's no end to what you can do. The real trick is not letting yourself get too lost in the weeds where you're making everything perfect and fussing over it too much. So I'm just going to show really quickly kind of what the toolbars look like for various elements, depending on what you're clicking on. So we have kind of the text toolbar controlling all different ways to control that specific section of text. It will not change all the text on your document. It's only going to change the section that you have selected right now. And then you have kind of like a graphic toolbar, which exists for when I had that square clicked on in the previous the example that I showed, you saw that this toolbar appeared and it lets me change the color. Sometimes I can even do like a gradient even, which can be really nice for certain things. The picture toolbar, one of the really nice features if you do have the paid version of Canva is that background remover. I have a couple flyers, for example, for CNA and even our logo for Mounds View Adult Education that I have removed kind of the background on so that it sticks with only the most important elements in those particular parts. And then you have kind of like a shape toolbar. You also have a really general one, which is the page toolbar. When you don't have anything selected or when you go out of your way to make sure that you've selected the page that you're on, that's when you're going to access the page toolbar where you can change kind of the color, add animation and different things about that. And I do want to show just one other thing about this. So you can see when I click on the page, this is when I get that page toolbar. It looks like they've added a new little widget here for the toolbar. But you can see I can change the color from here to anything that I would like. So whatever I'd like, in this case, I'm just going to mess around with it, not looking to make it look fantastic at the moment. I can also, if I have a need for a second page, such as that flyer, I have a back-to-back, the cumulative big class flyer that we have has two sides to it. And to add a new page, you just click add page, and then it'll give you another page. If you want to use similar templating on that page, what you're going to do is you're going to click duplicate page instead. So I have two pages now. One of them has, my first bit of information, and then the other one has my second bit of information. So you should also make sure to, as you're working through Canva, isolate the important information. That includes what times and days of the week are your classes? Is there a specific focus on certain days? How do your participants reach out to you? When did or do classes start? So again, here's that example of the GED class. Sometimes you also may benefit from having your information, like additional information about what it is that people would be doing in your class. Because sometimes people don't know, they're like, what does that mean though? If for example, we said CDL to somebody, a lot of people don't really know what a CDL is. They might not know what CNA is, for another example. So you may also want to say, hey, these are the things that you get from our program, but these are also the things that the jobs that you can receive from this specific class or that you can apply for. A lot of times people do, generally speaking, understand when you include pictures and graphics, which is why on this particular picture, even if somebody for some reason doesn't understand GED, having the cap, which is, visual shorthand for the idea of graduating, kind of helps them understand, even if for some reason they're like, what's a GED? I don't know. And then also saying high school diploma on here. I also do like and encourage the idea of, if you shorten something on the flyer for some reason, having that defined somewhere else. On this specific flyer, for example, I have HS here for high school diploma, and then I actually define that later on the flyer. So if it's something that is kind of confusing for people, that can really help. So. Now, also, there is a spot where you can go to share and collaborate with your colleagues. Basically, what you can do from there is collaborate with them. It works a lot like sharing a Google file. You do need either their name or email, or you can even get a link from them. You can control what their permissions are from here as well. Give them permission to do something or not do something. In the upper right-hand corner, that's where you see the shared option. And share actually encompasses a lot of different things. You'll see, I'll actually kind of manually do it too, because I think some things have changed off and on here, but you'll see that share up here. I have the option to download. I can also type in the name of an email if I would like to. Okay. And then I'll get an email telling me that this person has been added. This is also where I would go to control what they have permission to do, so I can change them to a viewer, a commenter, editor, or remove them from the particular document here. So I'm gonna set it to view just to kind of show that that's how that works. It saves automatically. You don't need to press a button to get it to save that part. Let's get back into this here. So you would type in their email address and then send that particular message out. So when you finish with the design, you do want to also get it off of Canva. You can't directly print it from Canva. If you try to print directly from it, it actually will give you a screen that's like, it basically tries to print off everything, including the backstage. So that's not what you're looking for. So basically what you'll need to do is you will need to download it. Files that you intend to print or like allow for copy, cut, and paste should be PDFs. If you intend to post it on Facebook or other social media, you should probably use a JPG or a PNG. And in order to actually download that file, what you're going to do is you're going to get back into where you would go for share. And then from the file type option, you'll choose what kind of file you want it to be. Again, consider the purpose. What is your mission? What are your goals with this flyer? Are you looking to mass print it, to post it places and hand it out to anyone who's interested in the classes? Or are you looking to post it on Facebook? Or, are you looking to get it on a poster or something like that? You'll have to consider exactly what it is you want. Sometimes you're going to download a file for multiple purposes, and you may need to have one that's a picture and one that's a PDF, and that's okay to use both, certainly. So in the share section, I will highlight that there is a spot that says download here. And when you click on that download option, that's when you get a drop-down menu that will allow you to, from there, change what kind of file you're looking at and adjust, okay, I'm doing a PNG or I want a JPG. You'll notice that there's lots of different options in this list, actually. I'll kind of show a little bit more manually speaking. From the download list, I even have access to things like videos and GIFs, PowerPoints. So selecting any of these will change how I'm downloading it. I recommend most of the time that you're going to be using PDF print, just because that's kind of the default setting that I tend to go with. You'll also notice that I have the option to change which page I'm using. So I can hit this drop down and choose whether or not I am wanting all the pages, a single page, first page, the second page. I can kind of pick and choose what it is I'm looking for. Canva does also have printing services as well. A lot of times there's not as much need for that when you're just using it from day to day. If there's something that you really elaborate that you would want to have a really nice copy of, you may choose to use their printing services. We have never had a reason to ourselves. There's maybe one thing that I've thought of that we might eventually do at some point, but not yet. And then I did want to do a cheat sheet, and then I'm gonna, once we've kind of done that, as well as looking at a couple of links for places that you can go for additional resources outside of me in this presentation, I do think I will have time actually to open it up to maybe a couple questions other than the QR code here. So the final cheat sheet here, kind of what I want you to remember and take away from this presentation. When you're building in Canva, when you're creating in Canva, you can definitely use templates and create something new. It's good because you can save a lot of time, but try not to make the flyers too similar. They shouldn't be too samey. I recommend personally using color to tie different flyers together. If you have a specific font that you like and you know people can easily read, use it over and over and over. Be very clear, and oftentimes try to go out of your way and make sure you're using sans serif fonts, especially if you're dealing with ELL populations. Keep your bullet points short, brief. Make your important information stand out by highlighting it, putting it front and center, and don't just hide it at the bottom of the page in a corner where no one's going to see it. Isolate what information you need to communicate about the class. Figure that out before you even do your design. Make sure you have things like the class times, the date, what kind of content is being covered in that class. Is there any expectations or program results that you want to share? Get feedback from your coworkers, your students. Sometimes your students can help actually as well. I've had times where I've shown my students something and they've noticed something that they've cottoned on to something that even the staff don't catch. So, keep that friendly relationship going. Make sure you're downloading the file as an appropriate type. So whatever your aim is, whether that be that you're going to be sending it out online to other sites, other resources, or if you're going to be only ever printing the file, or if you need it for Facebook, you need it for Instagram. Make sure you're keeping an eye on what it is that you need. And then also check carefully for accuracy. I can guarantee that if you don't keep an eye on it, you'll have little mistakes, whether that be a slight time discrepancy that you have or little spelling errors, missing words. Again, this is a great reason why you would want to get some peer review. I always, when I finish with something, I'll print it, I'll show it to people, and they'll notice, okay, maybe you want to rephrase this, change the color of this, make this information's missing or incorrect, fix this. So the more collaboration and the more feedback you get from the people around you, the easier it's going to be to keep your flyers good and consistent. And then I have a slide here which deals with the different additional tools that you can actually use. So Canva has a lot of like design schools where they help like teach you they'll give you little tips, little tricks about making design and also working your way through understanding the software as best as you can. I also recommend, personally, there's a website called coolers.co, and I do use that website a lot when I'm picking color palettes, because I like to really keep lots of bright, brilliant colors to make sure that my flyers are eye-catching. So I recommend using that as a tool. And then also there's another like a step-by-step guide that I have listed for designing from scratch. And all of these links actually should be available to you. Oh, that's a great bit of additional insight. Katie says that she uses Pinterest a lot to help pick out colors as well. So sometimes it is as easy as like Google searching, good, beautiful fall color scheme or something of the like. So that can really help. So
This is Carly. We've got about 7 minutes left now.
perfect. So any questions or concerns? As far as that, Amy, I haven't dug into that yet. There's lots of things that I've dug into. I'm going to read her question out loud first, actually, which is any tips for using Magic Media AI as a tool to get a usable design? I haven't used it yet. Again, there's so many different features that you can dig into on here that like I'm scratching the surface. We were talking about it earlier this week, and like I even though I use it as a primary part of my job, I get literally maybe 10% of what this software can do. So it's something to keep on playing around with and explore. So you're very welcome, Jamie. I am going to show one other thing just because, I think we have enough time for me to show this unless somebody else has a question that is burning to ask, and I'll definitely stop. But I do want to show like how the color system works here. And you might already be aware of this, but when I say like that color picker website that I mentioned, every color has this code. It varies. And when you're going to like color picker here, I'll pull up the website itself. We'll just accept, that's fine. Okay. All right. So we hit start generator here, and color picker will pick a series of colors for us. This is the code that I would use in Canva to change the color. So I would copy this particular color code, and then if I paste this color code in, you'll see I get a QR code with exactly that color. So it is common language there. So. And then as far as the AI tool, because I do know that there's lots of interest in that here, we'll get into that. Oh, where the heck is it? Maybe I need to get into the other one. I do need to get into the other one, don't I? Good thing I have it open still. So this is, again, I did tell you guys I uploaded the PowerPoint presentation into Canva. So here's the exact same presentation except for in Canva instead. And you can actually use that to generate everything from, oh, we gotta go. Oh, here, yeah, just go into here. I think they've changed some stuff about this recently. Everything always does wild updating, so I like that question. Silhouette, can't spell silhouette.
I have a question, Arian. This is Rachel.
Hey, Rachel.
Hey, do you find Canva is easier than using like you know, I guess like if you were to compare it to Word and
Mhm.
and to Canva, like do you just have more tools in Canva or is
Oh
it more
yeah,
accessible?
Word. So the thing about Word is that while Word you could achieve probably very similar to exactly the same stuff in
Hmm.
Word, ultimately it would take you a lot more time to do something that's the same exact effect. So
Hmm.
with Word, you would have to create a bunch of text boxes in order to, for example, on this
Yep.
slide of the PowerPoint, I'd have to create a whole bunch of text boxes. Whereas here, all I have to do when I tell Canva I want text, it's automatically a text box. Um,
Hmm.
Changing colors on things is extremely easy in Canva as well. And then they have a library of like pictures. Like I just looked up here, like a silhouette. Like I have like silhouettes and I can change the color of them very, very easily. Word
Mm.
does not have this feature without a lot of more playing and a lot more digging. And sometimes it'll still not turn out exactly the way that you want it to.
Hmm.
Um, the actual Word actually is not even considered Microsoft's like main flyer design thing. Before Canva, there was actually uh, Publisher. Has anyone in here ever used Publisher?
I
So
have not.
Publish
Yeah.
before I actually started here because I dug into Canva and fell in love with it. Um, all of the flyers that we did here were on Publisher actually, and I remember being given the back end access to some of them and redesigning them and eventually transitioning them over to Canva when I decided I liked that slightly better. But um, Publisher is Microsoft. It was designed with us very similar, like free floating. You can move stuff around very easy. You can change layers on things fairly easy and flip them and, add backgrounds and edit them and do things like that. But it was just a little bit more awkward to use. It did still have a lot of the features that Canva keeps. So for example, like Canva has really upped a lot of its game with grid lines, which you can see demonstrated on my screen right now. If you're a person that really likes things to be exactly centered and like exactly where you want them to appear on the page, grid lines are your best friend because they will help you make sure that two objects are the same size, and alter like where an object is. I found when I was using Publisher that those could be a lot more unforgiving the way that not Canva, Publisher did it. Because a lot of times their stuff would snap a little bit too frequently to a position that I didn't want it to be. So, And also, yeah, you can definitely go ahead and send that link in the chat if you would like the one that lets us the design school. So
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we
Yeah,
are
it's fine.
at time and we want to thank Arian for presenting, and Katie is going to share the link for the flyer or the agenda for today because we have a quick break and then we will be back with another session. So thanks for joining.
Thank you guys so much.